They've been quite hot on it. It might be because it's the beginning of the season, Adam, as well, I guess. But it's a whole page.
So stupid. Like that bottle on the floor. If they've seen a bottle on, if they've seen the rider throw it, unless they can identify it, the bottle could have fallen out of the bottle cage. They can argue that they might have held it up and dropped it. Unless they've seen him physically throw it, you can't just start willy-nilly just saying, well, they definitely threw it because we saw it, but we didn't know who it was, so we're just going to find him anyway.
Well, on top of that, there were 4 riders late for signing on the sign-on sheet yesterday. 4 of them, all given 500 Swiss franc fines, plus...
God, you see eyes having some dinner down there at the minute.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. Yes, they... well, also, this is actually probably worse than the money. As far as I can see, all 4 of these riders, and 2 riders and 2 team managers as well, who were late for the sign-on. I think the team managers being fined because their riders were late. The 2 riders were also docked 15 UCI points for being late for sign-on as well. Which is, well, I say late, it says not respecting the timing of the sign-on sheet. So the money's one thing, but 15 UCI points as well, you know, that's, it all adds up at the end of the day, particularly now we're talking promotion relegation. Anyway, I'm going to try and be more positive and stop talking about people getting in trouble and doing naughty things. You know, Pedro Lopez might all go quiet and he might get away with this, not least if he's absorbed. I think, as you and I both said, Adam, if he had made it across, it would be much more of a thing. It is now looking like he's not going to, after all that effort. Which in itself is crazy, because the reason he isn't with this lot is because he appeared to be the strongest on the climb. And by being the strongest on the climb and attacking, they've then come past him, hit it hard, and he didn't get back on. No, it's not been a good day out for Juan Pedro Lopez.
No.
Anyway, with 91k to go, we are getting closer to that sprint point, which is coming in about a kilometre's time. Intermediate sprint point, blue jersey, zip track sprints, points up for grabs, 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds. Best placed of these out front now is Ben Swift. 3 seconds won't make too much difference because he's 7 minutes and 5 seconds down. I'm presuming, Adam, they'll just roll through this. Or maybe Oliver Bledden will fancy trying to go through that
acho que já desistiu.
What do you reckon?
I think that, to me,
Agora sim, já desistiu. Já a gente sabia que ele ia desistir, né? De chegar à frente. Não sei para que é que levou tanto tempo. Né? Pá, podia ser para treinar contra o relógio. Né? Um esforço individual.
Particularly if people are tuning in halfway through this stage, it will look like a rather predictable day. But the opening, how long have we been on air? An hour and a half. The opening hour and a half has been absolutely bonkers. I haven't even had to go for any of my interesting off-race topic facts at all, because it's really kicked off, and we've had some interesting intrigue as well along the way. It's been good. The sprint point is in just a moment as well. In fact, I think that's it there, where our little mini banner is. It is. That's why the crowd are out. Slightly downhill running, looking like former Dutch national champion Pascal Encorn is going to roll through there first. And there's the answer to the question. Uncontested. He gets the 3 seconds. And not that he really needs them in GC. This is all about trying to make this breakaway survive as deep into this as possible. He's one of those riders, by the way, Encorn, Adam, talking about rider positions. I remember this from his Lotto Destiny days, and it seems to have transferred to his bike setup here as well at Soudal Quickstep. And it seems to ride quite a short stem. It's quite unusual. When he's in his aero tuck, his elbows actually inside. His elbows actually inside. It's not a position we normally see. Oh, look at this guy out for a spin on a Saturday afternoon. Lovely. It's lunchtime. What's he got in there?
This is why I like him. He's a nice guy. He's a lovely guy. He's an entertainer as well, and just chilling.
I think he went to give his rubbish to that fan, by the way. I'm not joking. I actually think that's what he did. He screwed up a little bit of foil. I think he went to give it to them and thought, no. I tell you what, he could do without any more problems.
Juan Pedro Lopez é grande comédia.
the foil wrapper to someone as if they would like it and thought better of it. It looks like it's seaside lunchtime all round, as well as we look at musette bags and food going in mouths all the way along here. What a beautiful shot from our drone as well. All calm down now, as you were. Oh, I'm going to say that. Where's that gap gone? 2.5. Is that 2:29 to Lopez? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're through the intermediate sprint point. There's been no need for the likes of Narvaez and others.
Os australianos têm os carros no areal, Zé. Olha para aquilo. Os gajos têm os carros na praia, dentro do areal, Zé. E aquela areia deve ser mesmo... Ou aquilo é 4x4. Mano, tem uns carros ao lado das toalhas. Olha para isto. Aí, Zé. Isto é uma América. É isso, meu. Tem uns carros na areia mesmo, junto à água, com a toalha esticada ao lado. Olha para isto. Aí, que cena, meu. Estou a passar aqui junto à praia. Bem, a fuga já está a perder algum tempo.
Now things have calmed down, I'm going to go through, Adam, some of my anecdotal bits and bobs to pick up, some of which are from yesterday and some of which was from correspondence along the way that people have been sending us. Let me see where to start. I'll tell you where I'll go. I'll go back to some comments I had sent to me yesterday, interestingly enough, about the finish yesterday. Maybe we'll deal with that one. Stephen Beckley sent me something very interesting as we watch Juan Pedro Lopez having some lunch, having a stretch. What now? A little bit of yoga as well. He'll be caught soon. He really is taking his time to come back into the fold. I wonder whether there'll be any... Yeah, well, no, I suspect they won't quite know what's been going on out front. Hello, this is interesting. This looks like Team Picnic Post Down, if I'm not mistaken. That indigo colour. Adam, I'm not going to get on with the other things at the moment. It's all happening. That look like them. The team of last year's Wollonga winner, Oscar Onley.
It does indeed, yeah.
That's very interesting. They're not hanging around either. Pressing on a little bit here. Maybe they're nervous about them getting too big a gap, that lead group, and not being able to contest the win on Wollonga Hill.
I think they were wanting to contest that win on Wollonga Hill, hence why they're riding them with the gap being 3:53 still. They are hungry for it.
Yeah. Well, it kind of teased me up to give you my prediction for the day. I think Oscar Onley looks so good when he attacked on... it was Mengler's where he attacked, wasn't it? I think Oscar Onley is if they can all bring it back together, a really good bet to get 2 wins in a row. Maybe be the modern era version of Richie Port, because it seems to suit him absolutely perfectly. What do you reckon, Adam? I know it's extremely early days to be asking for a prediction of this, but if it all comes back together, who is the likeliest of the climby types in here to win on top of Wollonga Hill? You've ridden it.
Well, I've not ridden it with the way he's going to ride it, Jess.
No, but you know what I mean. You know the climb better than, you know.
Yeah, I do. I don't know how the riders are feeling. That's the problem. I think, you know, your usual suspects that we've seen up there before. I think Onley's on fine form. I think Narvaez, Harper, Plapp, Sheffield. I think if Sheffield, you know, it's crosswind up that climb, so if Sheffield can really get on top of things and he's got the form that he's been showing, I think it will suit him. But yeah, it's not. And also, just to double check, I had just had a message through to say the time gaps shown on our screen are wrong. Live in the peloton, the radio tour, so the commissaires are giving 4:40, hence why Picnic, the Picnic team are riding. Picnic point a null.
Bem, está-se a circular uma velocidade louca, mesmo.
And now they're affecting their Picnic. Look at that, they've strung the bunch down to one long line along the edge of Aldinga Beach as well.
4:30.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Adam. Good information, useful information from out there. Yeah, that'll be why. There's a pretty big gap for the riders we have out front as well. It's not a bunch of inexperienced youngsters who are up there either.
I've just had another message come through, which is blatantly obvious now as well when we look at it. I wasn't really thinking about it. Movistar, obviously, with the riders out the front, none of them are threat to GC. So none of them wanting, Movistar not really wanting to take the stage, which takes away bonus seconds, which will obviously help their rider, Romero. So the other teams, especially Picnic Point and Hull, will be wanting to take the stage and bonus seconds along with it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, of course. 10 bonus seconds available at the top as well. And if we are thinking about Oscar Onley, he is 15 seconds down. So he would need separation. He would need to have some daylight between him and Javier Romo. Javier Romo not score any bonus seconds either, and Oscar Onley win. Even still, if that were to happen, I could see on a climb like that, there's still going to be tiny gaps going into tomorrow, Adam, which still could mean that those two intermediate sprint points tomorrow could be really interesting. Let me just check when the first one comes. Yes, I thought so. The first intermediate sprint point tomorrow with the 3 bonus seconds is after only 4 laps of that criterium circuit. And I can only presume that is very deliberate from Stuart O'Grady and his team. 4 laps into the criterium.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be done. I think, you know, making it exciting, making it difficult and opening that race up early on and making it fast and furious so for the people watching at home will get a fast and attacking race and an entertaining race.
Look forward to that tomorrow. It'll be a shorter broadcast. It's 90 kilometres the race, 20 laps of 4.5k, and as I say, that intermediate sprint point, first one after just 4 laps, so 20k or less than 20k, which that's 16k in, something like that. Slight mini echelon here, wind coming from the left, of course. Oliver Bledin. He's got Pascal Encorn underlapping. Look at the elbow and he comes through. Ben Swift there, almost hanging with the youngsters by resetting his head unit, despite his despite the fact that probably his career is overlapped with the emergence of deep data available to him under his nose right now, which I'm sure he makes use of.
Bem, a fuga vai forte. Os gajos estão fortes.
Absolutely shredding along here. They got a tailwind behind them.
Yeah, this part of the course tailwind, it is very rolling around this course that they do as well. Just gradual drags with fast drags down here, which are the kind of ones we've seen throughout this race already. You know, quite straight roads, go up to sort of 70k an hour, and then it saps your speed right down to sort of 20k an hour over the top, and then back up to speed again. So yeah, that'll be probably on one of the downhill sections. It's, as you just mentioned, just rather quick.
Very much so. Let me get back to the correspondence from people while we watch Picnic post-NL. I need to work on my boo-boo. I think Marty's got it locked down. I'll have to work on that in the early season. Stephen Betsley got in touch, says one thing for you and Adam Blythe to discuss is barrier control, and his photo of the finish yesterday of Leon Coquart dipping to beat Phil Bauhaus is indicative of it. You can see it really clearly. The barriers to the left-hand side of the shot from looking back at the finish line yesterday are, well, they're weaving all over the place. Not ridiculously so, but there's definitely some dips where you could ride into them and then flick out of them a little bit where the barriers are. He says the UCI need to sort this. In the last 250 metres, it should be arrow straight, not meandering. Instead of lanes, 1 metre parallel strips drawn at the edges and barriers follow that, and double barriers to stop the barrier movement. That's interesting. What he's saying is basically some of the movement of those barriers could be down to spectators, you know, holding on to them and leaning on them all day, and the barriers moving around. Possibly, I guess, looking at them. You have a double barrier, which means that, unfortunately for the crowd, they're further back. It would mean that we don't get the whole, you know, holding a camera out moment from people who insist on
81 km para o fim.
exciting moment they ever see into their handheld device. I get that as well. It'd be a bit of a shame though for the fans have to be that far away from it. But he says, you know, basically you draw a line down the edge.
Tarda nada, estamos indo em Ilunga, né?
Not allowed to meander in the finish. It was a right-hand curve though yesterday.
Piquenique post-NL controla a corrida, lá atrás no pelotão, né?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time it is the riders who are penalised for looking like they're deviating the line sometimes, but sometimes the barriers do kick out. which makes it look like they've deviated even more. But yeah, the barriers it's a hard one. They really need, you know, lines on the road for the barriers so they can see a straight line rather than the barriers wiggling. I think we spoke about pointing and painting lines on the road to give sprint lines as such, but I think decided where there's been a few occasions, Tour de France's, Giros, etc., where the barriers move in, come back out again, which do affect the riders. So it wouldn't be the worst idea if, like that road there, they've got lines on the front, arrow straight, if they could do that with the barriers as well.
Yeah, the only time I can remember ever seeing anything like that was that we had a Tour de France stage, was it Alpe d'Huez stage? But there's a short stage of the Tour de France where they started in sort of Formula One style gridded action. That was at the start, of course, but in terms of that level of detailing in the road painting for the riders as well, I don't remember the stage now, it was quite a while ago. Anyway, just to conclude the correspondence, thank you everyone that did get in touch. There was another message here from Lisa Grumpers, picking up on my comment yesterday at our conversation. You were trying to convince me of the enjoyment gained from eating crustaceans and whole animals. She got in touch to say, regarding the likening of crustaceans to bugs, there are in fact two members of the lobster family which are served in Australian restaurants, and they're called bugs. They are the Balmain bug and the Moreton Bay bug. Very delicious, I bet, she says, although it doesn't say that she's tried them. She then responded, I think something along the lines of saying, well, they're very nice with a little bit of crusty bread, and I think she said cheese. I can't remember what she said with it. But anyway, thank you, Lisa, for getting in touch. They sound absolutely horrific and precisely the kind of thing I'd be trying to avoid. Thank you for getting in touch anyway. Just thinking about tomorrow's criterium stage, Adam, one more thing to chuck in there that we might, I'm sure we'll revisit tomorrow, because we're looking down on Sam Welsford in his Zip Track Sprint Leaders jersey, having crashed today. It's slightly torn again. Despite his 2 wins, there are only 8 points between him and Brian Coquard. For the win tomorrow, in terms of blue jersey points, there are 30 points available for the win. So actually, if tomorrow, and it seems slightly unlikely, but he's already won a stage so far, certainly if Coquard were to win or to finish in the top 3 places and Sam Welsford didn't, it could mean a new blue jersey for...
O que é certo é que aqui a piquenique está-lhe a dar forte. Deixa lá ver aqui qual é a classificação deles.
Who pops up with one big result, and it could be that tomorrow we don't even see him in the result of the finish, or he might win. You know, he's that kind of rider. He's always either right on it and there, or sometimes a little bit quiet. But 8 points is nothing going into tomorrow's stage, really.
Yeah, 8 points is nothing. The sad thing is for him, he's got Sam Welsford, probably the fastest man on paper, and what he's shown so far within this race. So yeah, for Brian to do that, he'll have to go for the bonus points probably as well. So yeah, it will be interesting. It's ultimately what his goal is, trying to win the stage or trying to win the jersey overall. So I'd say go for the stage, and if you do end up winning the jersey, brilliant. But if you don't win the stage because you've been trying to get points, then it's not well, if I say it out
loud, quem é que eles têm aqui bem classificados para estarem a fazer este trabalho todo?
Breakaway currently riding through Tatachila, on their way back towards where the start was in McLaren Vale. They're nearly back to the start anyway. They'll go through there in about 4K's time, something like that, back where they started at 11:15 this morning. While we watch Picnic Post NL doing their chasing and taking another, 15-20 seconds off the 4 out front. I'll go back to make some corrections from yesterday and pick up on some birdies. I said I'd have a little bit of wildlife.
3:47, não está fácil.
Around the race, beyond the racing itself. I've been making a couple of mistakes the last 2 days when I've been seeing white birds flying through undershot. We saw some about 5 minutes ago, a lot of them in actual fact as well. And I keep saying they're galahs. They're not, because the galah actually is a kind of grey-backed bird with a pink
3:47, vantagem.
Very common parrot-like bird that you see all over South Australia. I saw loads of them when I was out there as well. They are the sulphur-crested cockatoo. It's a completely white bird with a, well, it says sulphur crest. It's kind of a deep yellow crest on top of its head and a big grey beak, like a classic-looking white, almost like a pirate's parrot, really, the sulphur-crested cockatoo. They're everywhere in South Australia, and we see them flying through all the time. So I'm just correcting myself on that, because they're not galahs at all. The galahs are also very prevalent in South Australia, but the sulphur-crested cockatoo even more so. Keep your eyes peeled, and I'll do my best to point out a cockatoo. One more bird-related thing to call on. We saw some birds yesterday, Adam. I called upon your own ornithological experience, and you said that you thought they might be birds.
O João Pedro Lopes e o miúdo da Emirates só tinham a ganhar se tivessem ficado com estes 4. Foram inventar.
Whose name I've now forgotten. No, it was House Carl 1066 on Blue Sky, I think it was. He got in touch. Thank you, Carl. And said that he thought what we saw were pied currawongs. Let me start that again. Pied currawongs. And I thought at first, no, he might be pulling my leg here, just getting me to read this out. Now I looked them up, and I'm not sure they are, because pied, just as it does with cows and other birds like wagtails, pied means black and white. And the very, very big birds we saw yesterday with the white tail were definitely a kind of golden brown colour, if I remember correctly. I don't think they were black and white, as in pied. I might be wrong, but I think they were brown, very big wings with a white tail. I'm not saying that Carl is wrong, but I went back and had a little look, and I actually think what we were looking at were white-tailed sea eagles. You see quite a lot of them in South Australia. Randomly, just linking it back to the country that Adam and I are currently sat in, there has been a pair of the very same species, white-tailed sea eagles, nesting, and I'm not sure if they haven't been breeding, but certainly nesting on the south of England, in and around the Jurassic Coast, around Poole Harbour as well. And they've been quite a draw for people to go and have a look at as well. But in South Australia, there's a lot more of them. I think that's what we were looking at yesterday, white-tailed sea eagles, fish-catching eagles that would be making the most of the warm waters around the edge of the Adelaide coast as well. Pretty certain that's what we saw. If anyone else has got any answers on it, do let me know. We're looking in here to McLaren Vale. In actual fact, what we're looking at there is the house of the Arenberg, the Osborne family, there it is, winery. That cube there is inspired by the, I think, modernist art of Salvador Dali. In fact, there's some Salvador Dali-esque, we've just seen one of the elephants there, statues alongside it. They are all built around the Osborne winery, who've become very well known for their, and it's got a cycling link, their Arenberg red, which is apparently inspired not by Paris-Roubaix and the Forest of Arenberg, in fact not by that at all, but by the name of one of their founders. I was scrolling through the history of that winery a little bit earlier, and now the building we've just seen there, that cube-like building, is in fact a restaurant right in the middle of their winery. And the wineries in the McLaren Vale have become so popular in South Australia the last few years that they're almost as much about tourism and attracting people to come and experience the winery as they are about what they export. And they do export a very, very large amount of wines that people will be quite used to as well. I've just been scrolling through some of the most exported wines from this area. In fact, the Arenberg is one of the most popular, as is Kangarilla Road. We've just gone through Kangarilla as well. What else did I pick up as well? The Wirra Wirra Organic wine as well, quite well known from McLaren Vale. And another one, Adam, I thought sounded interesting. There's another winemaker, so not the Osborne family, but the Two Hands family that make an Angel's Shiraz, which is quite well known from McLaren Vale. And another one, also made by Two Hands, is a Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's just called Sexy Beast.
Nice.
Not sure if you've tried it. Yeah.
I've tried a Sexy Beast.
You heard it right here.
Bem, isto não tarda nada, estamos já na parte final.
No, I have not tried it yet. Apparently, here we go, I'm going to read this. It's a deep and lush ruby colour with an alluring nose of rich fruit and subtle touches of violet, smoke and
Fuga continua com 3 minutos de vantagem, né? 3:25. 73 km para o fim. Fuga é constituída por Hepburn, Eckenhorn, Ben Swift e Bledin da seleção australiana, Hepburn da Jacob, Eckenhorn de Koenig Quick Step, Ben Swift da Ineos.
Well, I've just told you. It's on the website.
Crikey.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. I've given you that's it now. That's all my wine and bird info, all rolled into one, seemingly. What's that gap looking like? Just under 3.5 minutes. And a calm, relatively calm-looking peloton.
It's been pushed on though. That gap's come down over a minute and 20 now from when they first started riding Picnic Point NL. So they've got the boys on the job to try and bring these guys back to try and get Only the best chance to win the stage. This is the approach into the bottom of Willunga. They've got another lap round where they've ridden already, then they go one time up Willunga.
Bem, eles começam a caçar eles, eu não sei não.
Yeah, this is the approach. Normally when they get round this,
Ou começam a caçar esta fuga, ou estão lixados.
You go down for a long time, sorry, and then you're about 2k's before you get to Willunga, it starts to drag ever so slightly, and always notoriously windy. We've seen splits there in the past, but today I think the wind is just blowing not quite in the right direction for that wind to really kick in too much.
Certainly plenty of time for things to settle down a bit now, because they've got, well, 22k to go until we go through Snapper Point again for the next of the intermediate sprint points. There's the man who was really dominant yesterday in the breakaway as well, Mauro Schmidt, the Swiss champion for Jaco Alula, right at the back in his red jersey. And he was impressive yesterday, Adam, wasn't he? But in the end, didn't have too much to show from it, other than winning all of those sprint points. It was a good ride. Ben Swift right at the back here. We talked a little bit the other day when he was trying to ride across to the break. In fact, he got in one of the early breaks about his career. It was, yeah, that was the thing I'd forgotten, Adam, wasn't it? It was that Swift had spent those 2 years at UAE Team Emirates. Of course, I should remember that, but he was with Sky first, left and went to UAE Team Emirates for 2 years, and then went back to that team when it had become Ineos Grenadiers as well. And so he's seen both sides of that team, and Adam, just actually that links me to something else I was reading yesterday, as we see Ben Swift just shaking his legs out, Alaphilippe style. Not quite as twitchy as Alaphilippe does it, just a little bit more gently perhaps. He has seen the dominance of Sky Pro Cycling as it was back then when he was riding for them, and then he's seen the emergence and the change under Sir Jim Radcliffe at Ineos Grenadiers. I say change in lots of ways as well, but it was something that I'm trying to remember, sorry, I'll get there in a second. It was something that Ethan Hayter, I believe, has been talking about in interviews this week. I'm going to quote from the website cyclinguptodate.com, who've done a really good job this last couple of years of breaking and bringing to us new and interesting stories. There's some direct quotes here from an interview with Ethan Hayter. I'm going to try and quote directly. Them as such. He is quoted as saying, "If you run a cycling team like a company, the riders and staff can lose their passion." This is a report written by Ruben Silva on Cycling Up to Date. Of course, Ethan Hayter has moved to Soudal Quickstep, the British road race champion. And it says here, the Briton is now signed to Soudal Quickstep with fresh motivation. He says, "Breath of fresh air compared to Ineos. If you run a cycling team like a company, the riders and staff lose their passion." That was the case with Ineos in recent years. Racing felt more like a job, Hayter said in an interview with Sporza. So the interview was with the Belgian website Sporza. To be selected for a Grand Tour at Ineos, you either had to be a leader or a domestic. It was somewhere in between, and that's why I always
a Picnic pós-Daniel continua a trabalhar aqui na frente, não é? Será para Oscar Online, não é? Eu penso que sim. Será para Oscar Online. Penso que sim.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think
isn't it?
Ineos, it did turn into more of a business.
Será para Oscar Online.
I think there's some riders in there that have been in the sport for such a long time and they've seen that change.
Está a 15 segundos como ele logo, né? Quer dizer que vamos ter Oscar Onley ao ataque na parte final da corrida. Já estão aqui há muito tempo a trabalhar. Há muitos quilómetros mesmo. Muitos quilómetros aqui na frente.
The management changed a lot, everything changed a lot. I think there's one thing that as a bike rider a lot of people forget is that, you know, you love riding your bike. When you're racing your bike, it is flipping hard. Getting out training every day is hard work, but when you're getting employed by a bike team, they're employing you because you're good at something. You're good at winning bike races, you're good at positioning, you're good at riding on the front, you're good at climbing, whatever you are. I think for a rider coming into, and this is especially for younger kids this day and age, is I hate to mention that they treated it like a business. And I think for riders, one of the things that I got taught and always remembered was you need to treat your career as a business. You need to remember that you're a business, that you have to not get attached to them too much. You have to remember that you're employed to do something, but you have to treat your team like a business as well. You know, you're using them to get better, to get more money, to get more results, so you have to use them to the best of your ability. And it's one thing that annoys me slightly with teams where they reference, you're in the family now for this team, or you're in this wolf pack for this team, we're going to be together for life, we love them, blah blah blah. No, they don't. They wouldn't love them if they weren't winning. You know, they wouldn't love them if they weren't doing the job. They don't love them for the people, they love them for the job that they do. And yes, the riders can be part of this strong group of riders that are good friends and they really get along, and that side of things I love it. But when contracts ends, they don't just re-sign people because of whatever it is, or no, I'll stay with them for a lot less money because I'm part of their family.
Bem, isto faltam o quê? Faltam...
That's one thing that annoys me about it, where
Faltam. Ora bem, 10, 20, 30, 40, 40 e poucos, 42, 43 km para o início do Willunga Hill, não é? Willunga Hill que tem, como podemos ver aí, tem 2.800 metros, né? Onde estará, ele é 3.300, mas tem 2.800 com uma maior dificuldade. Será 3.3 km, média 7.3. Primeiros 700 metros 8.7, depois 8.4, 7.0, 7.2. Temos aqui 2.800 metros. Isto praticamente para mim é ao nível da outra etapa, da penúltima etapa, onde o Aláudio fez um bom resultado. Isso acredito que o Aláudio poderá fazer aqui qualquer coisa. Acho que o Aláudio hoje poderá fazer aqui qualquer coisa. Agora para isso primeiro vão ter que caçar a fuga. A fuga está a perder a força.
A British team as they go through the feed zone here. I agree. I mean, I completely understand what you're saying, Adam, about the business side of things. I just wonder if maybe there are, I'm not arguing with you by any means, who am I to argue with you, but I'm just wondering whether there are teams where there is a little bit more of a family feel, and the team I'm thinking of is in this breakaway, Jaco Alula, in amongst those Australian riders. You look at someone like Michael Hepburn here as well. I mean, I don't know. But I'm just wondering, in a team where there are so many more of one nation, in a way that I guess Team Sky was a little bit originally, although it's always had plenty of foreign riders too, maybe it's different for a nation like Australia, which is so far away from the European heartland. But whether someone like Michael Hepburn might say to what you're saying, no, actually, you can have that family feel in a team like this,
Hora do abastecimento,
none of us want to go. And I wonder if maybe you've got a team where it is from a country like Australia, where I don't know, maybe there are some riders who would rather be there than a European-based team, a Spanish team or a German team that might offer more money.
Yeah, 100%. I think, you know, it really depends on the rider. I think if you look at Hepburn, it's no disrespect to Hepburn whatsoever, you know. Happy might get a couple of chances a year to win a bike race, but he knows what he's there for. It's like Ben, you know, he might get a couple of chances to win a bike race each year, maybe a handful, 10 races, but Hepburn's employed to do a certain job, help the higher paid riders in the team, help the bigger paid riders in the team, and they're not going to earn a hell of a lot more if they go to another team. So staying where you're comfortable and staying where you feel at home, yeah, it's a definite 100% you do that for whatever reason it is. But if Hepburn started, you know, getting offers from other teams, or Swift started getting offers from other teams, all of them have got contracts, and those offers from other teams, they're not going to be too dissimilar to what they're on now necessarily, unless they started doing something incredible, and then the offers become bigger, and that's when they start to look for not the biggest offer, but where they can make the most money and get the best results.
Bem,
as well.
o grupo da fuga parece bem compacto, os gajos estão a trabalhar bem. Vamos lá ver
You know, the development of
depois da primeira passagem como é que vai ser.
As well as, you know, you look at Visma Lease Bike, they've got a feeder team, a proper team, you know, where they've got the Visma Bike younger squad. FDJ have got one as well, I think. There's a couple of teams where they've got these squads where they can bring in riders that are in their feeder team and they can drop into professional racing, and they get them young, nourish them as such, they grow them into riders that they can be in the pro team, and if they're not, they won't be, but they give them that chance where they can take them on board directly and make the most of it. Very similar to football, and there's a lot of teams that don't do that. Picnic and L is another one of those riders where they've got that feeder team. But if you look at Ineos and a couple of other teams, you know, Ineos, as you mentioned, they've put money into a younger team, which is great, but they've not got one themselves. It's a lot more money, obviously, so they have to then look at riders. Say if they were looking at a rider that's in the Visma Bike feeder team, Visma Lease Bike would offer them probably a contract if they were good enough, but they'd offer them a fair contract. They've been in that team, they've helped them get where they are, they've given them the chances, they believe in them. Ineos was always the team that came along, and I'm using them as an example.
Zona de abastecimento aqui para o pelotão agora.
So they give them an offer as a young neo pro, say they pull a number out my head, say if they've got offered 100 grand from Visma Lease Bike to become and turn professional with them, and then Ineos Grenadiers came along and said, well no, we'll give you 150 grand and you can ride in a British team along your British teammates, you know, they'd sell it to you, and ultimately with that extra 50 grand you're doubling your, not doubling it, you're almost doubling, you're getting half of your wage extra than what you're doing from Visma Lease Bike, so then you'd be more inclined to go there because it's so much more money, you're in British riders, but is that the best thing for your career? And that's what Ineos in recent years I think have done, you know. In the past they got the best riders because they were always notorious for paying a lot more money, and that's why we saw so many good riders go there, similar to UAE now. They're just taking all the best riders. Look at Tobias, he was in Ineos. He's probably got a bigger offer from UAE. The riders, pretty much all of them that are going there at the minute are stepping it up. They're getting better and better. So you look at that and you think,
estes quilómetros agora finais passam a voar, 64 km.
I'll go there.
Faltam quase menos de 40 para o início da primeira subida. Agora é rápido. Movistar ali bem colocada, logo na segunda posição, atrás da Post-Clinic, da Peak Clinic Post-Daniel, antiga DSM.
Ethan Hayter, another one, he's left. They're not, and I mean this very respectfully, they've just not got a grasp of getting that younger generation in yet. If you look at all the riders they've signed, the majority of them are older riders, and they've not had the massive success that they've had like they had in the Sky days.
No, and they're, I guess, waiting for the likes of Magnus Sheffield and the new signing, Sam Watson, to come through and be that next generation as well. Meanwhile, still their best Grand Tour rider of the last few years continues to be Geraint Thomas, the oldest man in this race, in the race right now. Building towards, I believe, another Tour de France this year, I think, Adam, as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at G, he's done amazing. You know, he's the oldest rider in this bike race.
Pois é, maltinha, este fim de semana arrancamos aí com a volta à França, o nosso save. Vamos ver o que é que vai dar, não é? Com Almeida e Bento. Quer dizer, não consegue descortinar aqui o Eulálio. Vai ali um Bahrein, mas é difícil de ver. Eulálio 24, Rui Oliveira 35. São os dorsais.
Times like Tour Down Under when he's not on his best form whatsoever, and when he'll go and maybe almost win the Giro or almost win the Tour de France, he'll be right up there. And I think the big difference there is nowadays is that teams are looking at younger riders coming through or riders that can win the Tour de France but win all the bike races as well. You look at Pogacar, you look at Vingegaard, you look at Remco, they're winning Tour de France's, they're winning one-day races, and they're the riders which are few and far between. So when you get one of those riders, you really have to pay for them, but you have to find them early, like Vingegaard, you know, like Tadej Pogacar, and if you don't, they'll be snapped up so quick and they'll be paid an absolute fortune that if you want to get them out of the contract, like Tadej Pogacar, I believe it's 100 million to get him out of his contract.
That's amazing, isn't it? It's talking football money. It's football money here, isn't it?
3 minutos ainda.
So yeah, as I said, if you look at all that and you go back to the chat.
Olha o DPP, como é que é? Boas, como é que estamos? Vamos lá ver como se porta hoje o nosso Eulálio. Epá, eu estou esperançado. Estou esperançado que ele faça coisa parecida a ontem, não é? Eu acredito que sim. Acredito que sim. Acho que vai ter liberdade para isso. Para já está a 15 segundos, ok? Está a 15 segundos da amarela. Acho que vai ter liberdade para tal. É o melhor classificado da equipa. Amanhã é a última etapa. Por isso, acredito que esta é a etapa mais difícil, acho eu, se não me engano. A próxima etapa acho que não tem assim. Chega a ver. Deixa eu ver aqui a próxima etapa.
Seems, you know, generous with what he shares with the young riders around him, particularly within that Ineos Grenadiers team.
He will help massively. Yeah, I think, you know,
acho que a próxima etapa não.
He's a good guy, he's a great guy, very easy to chat to, a lot to learn from him, and he's
é um circuitozinho,
for him on
Oi, tem uma colinazita.
Grand Tour, you know, he's done so many of them, and he's been so successful in so many of them that, yeah, you need to pay attention to what he's doing, and you need to listen to him because there's not, well, he's the oldest man in the bike race here. He's probably he's probably got one of the best Palmeiras in this peloton. So yeah, you need to listen to him.
Não. 300 metros a 4.3. Pá, eu acredito que terá liberdade. Acredito que vai ter liberdade para tal hoje. Isto agora as imagens com os drones. Oi? Está ali, nosso Rui Oliveira ali. Bem colocado ali. Está a fazer de aguadeiro hoje. Rui Oliveira foi ao carro. Antes pareceu-me, estava a dar um bidão ali. Stevie Williams, who's been on the deck. Stevie Williams, who hasn't actually ridden as well as Jonathan Narvaez. A ver se o Eulálio anda aqui por trás. Já não deve estar aqui. No início da etapa andava por aqui. Está ali um Bahrein. Ali à esquerda, parecia. Giovanni, Narvaez ali também. Nosso Rui Oliveira um bocadinho mais à frente. Just behind his own teammate. Of course, two big threats for the overall. Where is Jay Vine now on general classification? 8th. He is in that group who are 15 seconds down. So that 15 seconds down group, in a way, are the riders we really need to be thinking about for today's second ascent of Wollonga Hill. I'm just going to remind people who they are. At the same time, Adam, I'm reminding myself as well, so we think about who we're looking for today. The riders who are 10 and 12 seconds down have got there through good riding, bonuses, and a couple of them, like Bastien Tronchon and Patrick Conrad, from being out there in the Bahrein a mexer-se pela direita, 24, Eulálio ali na quarta posição. Atenção, Bahrein Bahrein a colocar-se, não é? Ali pela direita, mais à direita do ecrã. Agora ali pelo meio, e lá ali era o quarto homem. Era o quarto homem a contar da frente, né? Número 24. O Bahrein também já a começar a procurar o seu espaço ali na parte da frente. Ainda faltam 30 km para o início da subida, mas a Bahrein também já a trazer a equipa toda para a frente.
Andrea Baggioli of Lidl Trek, he was one of those Lidl Trek riders who was in that leading group the other day, all 5 of them there. And Oscar Onley of Team Picnic Post NL. Also, Bauke Mollema of Lidl Trek, Tom Globe, the British rider for Visma Lisa Bike, Luke Plapp, of course, for JQ Alula, and then the guy who's attacked a couple of times already in this race, Afonso Uelio, the Portuguese rider for Bahrain Victorious. They are in that group, and I think, Adam, in that group of 11 riders, all on 15 seconds down, outside of obviously the race leader Javier Romeo and Jonathan Narvaez, I reckon they're probably the biggest
Bem, aqui a parte de trás do pelotão,
for today. I can't think of too many outside of
a
that.
malta que está a passar mal aqui.
That we need to be worried about, other than Stevie Williams, maybe. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think Stevie will give it a good go today. He'll try and hang on, do what he can. He's not in the best form. Well, he's not in the form that he was last year, and it's definitely not his best form. But this race being so earlier on, and Stevie having such a successful year last year, he might have changed a few things to try and peak that little bit later on than too early, I'd say. He wasn't peaking too early last year.
56 km
later on in the season,
para o fim.
we might see a bit more of Steve Williams rather than right at the start.
Yeah, I'm just going to see if I can see anything I can see on his
Quando entrarmos ali na subida, isto vai ser rápido, né? São 20 e poucos quilómetros.
Whether he'll be back to defend his Flesh Wallon title and what else he might be going for. He had that fantastic year last year, winning the Tour Down Under, the Tour of Britain, and Flesh Wallon. So kind of fairly evenly spaced. Tour of Britain, of course, is just into September as well. Down on Javier Romo, he's lost a pin on his race number. As far as I'm aware, that's not from falling off. I think it's just one of those things. He's been feeding sensibly, presumably. Well protected in amongst his team there as well. It's going to be fascinating, Adam, to see how the 26-year-old Spaniard goes on Willunga Hill. I mean, I have seen a few people saying they reckon he is the big threat on Willunga Hill. He seemed pretty confident. It's hard to tell because English is not his first language, obviously, and his English isn't as good as a lot of the other riders in there. So hearing him interviewed yesterday, he sounded to me, what I read into it was that actually he's really quite looking forward to Willunga Hill.
Não, a fuga está-se a manter acima dos 3 minutos. Abaixou ali quando teve 4, mas agora está-se a manter. A fuga vai chegar ao início da subida, no mínimo com 2 minutos. Certeza. Gomas. O homem da Jacob está a comer gomas, garantidamente. Agora, hidratos de carbono aí com força aí para dentro. Gomas são top.
Just above his elbow on the back of his arm there, he used to win the Australian Time Trial Championships. It's not a fairing, but the way the skin suit is designed, it pushes back.
Bem, continua a fuga, né? O homem da Jaco, da Bikini Quick Step, Ineos e da seleção da Austrália. Atenção.
I'm just looking at what these guys are wearing. I noticed that all of the Australian national team are wearing jersey and shorts. Maybe that's a kind of national team issue, whereas when you're riding for one of these world teams, you get everything bespoke. We're looking at the Gobic skin suit here of Ben Swift, and that looks, there's not a crease in it, Adam, so a lot of these teams, and I'm presuming with Swift there, that'll be a custom speed suit, right, where everything has been tucked and
Maltinha, está a decorrer aí o giveaway, não se esqueçam se quiserem participar. Há o giveaway no topo do chat, só entrarem aí e inscrever-se. Quando atingirmos as 10 pessoas, fazemos o sorteio.
30 riders in a team. That's a lot of skin suits. So it's small, medium, large. They might get a bit more sewn on the shorts or something, but yeah, generally for a lot of teams it is small, medium, large.
Yeah, we can see there.
O homem da bola foi ao chão, Zé, tá todo raspado.
Sam Welsford is wearing the blue Zip Track Sprints jersey. It's not his team jersey. The jersey looks a bit short. The back of his bib shorts there. I hope he's got sun cream.
Ah, era o Welsford. Foi ao chão hoje outra vez. Porra, tá sempre pro chão, meu.
And then again, he's probably the least of his worries today when he's already been down on the deck, completing once again the now very familiar Hulk look. It kind of suits him really, a guy of his build, to have like the kit literally ripping off him. It sort of fits his mode really, doesn't it? Not that you wish that for anyone, it's not a nice way to do it, but it's if it suits anyone,
there you go.
It suits
Look
him.
at Luke Clapp's skin suit on the left hand side, he's gone.
Yeah, I did just see it there.
Two little parts on the back of his arm.
You mean in the armpit area, Adam, is that?
Just below it, just above his elbow at the back.
Yeah.
It's designed for when he puts his elbows, well, his forearms
Bem,
on his tripod, that little part where,
sei lá, 27 km para o início da subida, mais ou menos.
Slip off it a little bit easier.
We chipped
Não é
away
27,
30, well,
chega.
they have chipped away 30 seconds, still 3 minutes for our
30.
lead group. How deep can they survive, or, dare I say it, Adam, I should always say it, I should always be saying this, can they survive to the
30
finish?
30, vamos ver lá.
Depends how they race this next climb. That's the main one. I think, you know, it's,
Bem, já conseguimos descobrir o Elalo estava ali na parte da frente, né? A equipa a colocar alguém lá na frente da corrida. Esperemos que seja para ele, né? Aquela colocação.
Yes. What a fascinating breakaway we've had today. If you've only just recently joined us, and maybe you've, wherever you are around the world, maybe you've got up early or you've come in and you want to catch the second half of this stage, at some point, go back and watch the first hour or so. In fact, the first hour and a half was absolutely brilliant. The way the break formed, who was in it, the fact that we had young Pablo Torres in there.
Bem, agora parece que vai baixar dos 3 minutos, primeira vez. 3 minutos certos. Acho que a piquenique pós-Daniel vai começar a apertar. Vamos a passar outra vez, isto é um circuito, né? Vamos a passar pela zona da praia. Supostamente haverá aqui algum vento. Não sei se está vento forte, se não. Deve ser uma zona um bocado perigosa.
Got back in the peloton, leaving these 4 out front. I think at the end, Adam, when we go back and watch the highlights that we always do at the end, I'm very much looking forward to seeing that flyby as well. And then the chat between these guys about making it hard for them by putting it in the gutter as well. Absolutely fantastic. It's great that we're getting to hear a bit of what they're saying as well, but just a sense of, even in amongst all the things we're talking about professional sport and the business of professional sport, just hearing the kind of the rivalry on the road out there of the riders with their feet on the pedals in the rawest sense of things. It was proper old school. I love that.
It was good racing, tactical racing as well, which I loved. Different abilities, trying to achieve the same thing ultimately, and doing it in very different ways.
We've got just over a kilometre to go to snap a point, mate. Next time through, the final intermediate sprint of the day. In fact, this is the last intermediate sprint point until the criterium tomorrow. Those 2 fascinating intermediate sprint points. The first of which, I'll remind people, comes after only, I'll check my notes again, the 4 laps. On the 4th lap of 20 in that criterium tomorrow. It could be really interesting, but depending on what the gaps are at the end of the final ascent on top of Willunga Hill today. This is the penultimate stage.
Nossa, aguentar bem 3 minutos, ok.
5th day of racing here on the 25th anniversary edition.
Vamos lá ver como é que vai ser a abordagem da primeira passagem do Willunga Hill, não é? Acho que lá atrás tem que começar só a organizar bem melhor.
Zip Track Sprints points and the 3 bonus seconds too ahead of Michael Hepburn and Ben Swift. Maybe this time we'll see Oliver Bledon the 22-year-old
Será que o tempo vai começar a baixar agora? Já está a baixar dos 3 minutos, 2:54.
Unlike most of his teammates in that team, who most of them ride for the Cash Body Wrap team, the Australian Cash Body Wrap team. They've been around for a couple of years, that team now. He's the only one who rides for a team called Atom 6 Decker Continental. It's an Australian continental team. The last 2 years he was with ARA Skip Capital, who also sponsor the national team. You'll notice from the ARA on his shorts. Making a switch this year to Atom 6 Decker Continental. And I did notice Adam as well. A fair bit of conversation. I mean, they're both Aussies, obviously, but between him and Michael Hepburn. Michael Hepburn talking to Oliver Bledin, and I think, from what I could see, looked like he was just kind of encouraging him. And in fact, at one point, it looked like he was asking, "Have you eaten and drunk enough?" I didn't hear him say that, but that was my reading of it. That maybe, I might be wrong, but that Michael Hepburn just looking after Oliver Bledin a little bit there. And that was nice to see, not least because Bledin would probably give anything he could to be on that Jayco Aluda team. So not only is he in the shop window, but he's kind of working alongside Michael Hepburn right now, and it's probably a nice moment for him, I'd have thought.
Definitely, yeah. I think, you know, if you've got a very experienced World Tour rider that's giving you tips and just checking up on you,
Vamos a chegar, vamos quase a chegar à hora da verdade.
I'm sure he's probably saying those words and just keeping an eye on him, and it's always a nice thing.
So Ben Swift leading towards the line. There is the line at Snapper Point. It'll be the last time through here. We came through here, of course, coming south yesterday before traversing the Fleurieu Peninsula and heading towards Victor Harbour. This time, Ben Swift from Michael Hepburn. I'm writing these down as I say it on my little note sheet here that I do every stage, because after the stage, for those of you who don't know, about an hour and a half later, I record short highlights that go out on YouTube. You can find those short highlights for all these stages. In fact, we do them for pretty much all the World Tour races and some of the Pro Series races as well. If you go to the Eurosport Cycling channel, you'll find free highlights, usually about 5 or 6 minutes.
Tem que começar a trabalhar mais forte lá atrás. Acho que só a Piquenique Postenel, né? Que é a antiga DSM. Não gosto deste nome. Preferia DSM. DSM era mais fácil. Mais fácil entrar. Acho que esta Piquenique Postenel, né? Acho que vai precisar de ajuda. Movistar vai ter que entrar. Movistar vai ter que começar a trabalhar.
I shouldn't be surprised, of course, Adam. I am, of course, looking at
não é que a fuga vai criar perigo à geral, não é? O mais perigoso está a 7 minutos, por isso. Daí a margem que eles também estão a manter. 3 minutos. É a metade do tempo do chat, né? 3,5. Eu acho que
work on those positions, and working on your position is a great thing. I think the aero took where you can stay in a position for forever longer if you adjust your position to be as aero as you can. You have to remember these guys, look at Milan San Remo, 300k, 311 kilometers should I say. You can't hold that position.
Movistar agora está-se a colocar aqui mais na frente.
Your happy medium.
Waiting to see the rider who's got a special tattoo or something, Adam, which only aligns when you've got a 90-degree bend in your elbows, something like that. I don't know how that would quite work, but you know what I mean. Or maybe a little wearable device that beeps if your elbow it stretches out beyond the 90 degrees. You know, the parallel forearm.
Yeah, that would be annoying.
Maybe that's where my millions.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I don't know anyone that can sit in an aero position for more than 20 minutes on a road bike that's mega aero.
It's something that in the junior academy that I used to run, we used to have a saying, tuck 90, and you still hear riders who've been through that academy shout it at each other, meaning tuck yourself down, get 90 degrees with your elbows. And it's a very Oakland's Wolves thing. That academy has always been pushing it, and actually those young riders would spend quite a lot of time planking onto gym balls in that position, holding the elbows at 90 degrees and then lifting a foot off, that kind of thing, so making themselves unstable, trying to practice stabilising and getting stronger in that position. It worked for some of them. Oh, and Joe Blackmore came through my academy, and certainly he's pretty good at holding that position. If you shouted at Joe Blackmore, tuck 90 right now in a World Tour race, if you see him go past, he'll give you a double look because he'll know exactly what it means. It's definitely something the youngsters.
Bem, 46 km para o fim.
For sure. This is a shot from out at sea, looking across the ever-crumbling sandy beaches along the Albinger Plains, with the Great Ridge in the background. The range, it's called, stretching between Dorset Vale
mais ou
and
menos
Selleck's
20
Beach.
km.
I'm presuming on Selleck's Beach everyone has to have a Tom Selleck style
Para o início do Willunga Hill, né? Dupla passagem. A última coincide com a meta.
Adam, that is where I want to be right now. Yes, please.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely perfect. I think there may not have been a great deal of clothing being worn there either, so I think the lady was a bit like, do you mind zooming in on me? We're enjoying ourselves here. Oh, that looked like fun. Beautiful bluey green waters as well. Splendid. I don't know if I probably shared this with you last year, Adam. I think I did, but I've fallen in love with paddleboarding these last few years. I've got an enormous paddleboard. It's like a canal boat. You can't fall off it. I've got me and my kids on there before all together, and it doesn't even come close to falling over. It is absolutely enormous, and I love that thing. Don't get to do anywhere near enough.
Ui, isto vai dar treta com o pelotão aqui, Zé. Isto vai dar treta nesta viragem à esquerda, e vai dar treta ali, certeza. Espero bem que não, mas vai dar treta. Aquela viragem à esquerda com aquele separador ali no meio vai dar treta. Aquilo é muito estreito demais. Ou eles vêm estirados, ou vêm o pelotão esticado, ou isto vai dar treta. Se o pelotão for assim todo largo, isto vai dar treta ali. Há malta que não vai ver, no meio da confusão não vai ver aquilo, vai bater ali. Isto quem estiver na frente do pelotão, se eles tiverem informação, isto é agora vir a equipa para a frente e começar a puxar. Quase capaz de que esses gajos vão fazer. Para entrar bem nesta viragem à esquerda. Bem, a fuga perdeu quase um minuto. Perdeu 40 segundos.
They're not a million miles off on that running into Willunga now, so yeah, as you can see, the other team's taking up the position behind them, trying to get organised. But yeah, this looks like it's going to be a battle for this peloton. The winner will come out of this peloton by the looks of things.
Vamos lá ver como é que vai ser aquela viragem. Estou a gostar nada daquela viragem, não me agradou nada não. Atenção, ora é agora, não, ainda não é agora. Mas é tipo estes separadores, só que é na viragem à esquerda. Espero bem que não aconteça nada. Deve estar quase a chegar lá. O pelotão está bem, está um bocado. É aqui. Ui. Umas passagens ali, ok. Passou toda a gente. Vá lá. Tem ali aqueles separadorzinhos e aquilo basta uma distração. Ele tem ali tipo um passeizito com um palmo de altura na boa. Eles vinham estirados, vá lá. Se viessem mais devagar era mais perigoso. Bahrein aqui pela direita ali, que nos pareceu.
That's a big swoopy road they've just come down here, big and wide as well, a lot of chance for moving up, but to what end? 2 minutes and 15 seconds, everyone now thinking about that first ascent of Wollonga Hill, which is going to come at 20, well they'll start it as they go through Wollonga Township and start the climb with 27k to go. We've got 42k to go right now, with the breakaway have. Let's go through a bit of the history of Wollonga Hill, by the way. I was looking up why the hill is even there in the first place, Adam, and it apparently is built on, it's a tarmacked, or what do you call it? I think in some parts of the world it's called a metalled climb. So it's got asphalt, it's an asphalt climb, get the right word, Cox, which is based on an old, ancient Aboriginal track used for crossing the Fleurieu Peninsula. So it originally went up and onto that ridge, the range, and then southward to cross the Fleurieu Peninsula as well. It was settled, it was surfaced.
Bem, estamos quase a chegar ao Wollonga Hill, não é?
Settlers in 1837,
Faltam
a time at which so many things happened in this part.
Vai, 16, 17 quilómetros.
Yesterday, what should we say, the demolition
Mesmo
of the
quase a chegar lá.
the increase in whaling, that kind of thing. Some
É
of the
que depois
negative things that happened
praticamente
among
são
some of the positive things as well.
ora bem,
One of the things
10,
they did was surfacing Wollonga Hill.
20 e pouco, não é? 20 e poucos quilómetros.
I guess a little bit quicker, taking one of the steeper routes up as well.
10,
Along the way, an absolutely perfect cycling climb for the Santos Tour Down Under.
já, sei lá, 25, para aí. Desde o topo do Wollonga, da primeira passagem até à meta, são 10, 15, 20, vai lá 22, 23 km no máximo, não são mais. Por isso, atenção aqui a esta passagem, a primeira passagem, né? Ele tem a sua dificuldade, como já tivemos a ver, Wollonga Hill, 8.7, primeiros 700 metros, 8.4 a 1400, depois 7, 7.2, pá, com a velocidade que eles vão entrar ali, vai haver cortes, de certeza, vai-se formar aqui grupos, garantidamente. A Movistar vai meter ritmo. Quem está ali na Movistar é Emirates, Little Track, Red Bull com o Fisher Black. Esperemos que ali o nosso Eulálio também se meta ali ao barulho. É uma boa hipótese hoje. Se Eulálio, se permitirem o Eulálio fazer qualquer coisa, podemos ter aqui um bom resultado para Eulálio na primeira corrida do World Tour, na classificação geral. Estar ali no momento certo, como fez na outra etapa, era muito bom. Estreia nas corridas no World Tour, fazer um bom resultado. Fechar aí tentar fechar um top 10. Amanhã a etapa será diferente. Se ele hoje conseguir segurar isso, era top. Ver se a gente consegue descortinar aqui ao lado. Oliveira é o 35. Já o vimos ali há pouco, ele agora não está ali neste momento. Ou é aquele que está ali? Não, aquele é o 36, acho. E o ali é o 24. E não está nenhum Bahrein agora. Não vejo nenhum Bahrein.
Picking out both Jay Vine and Jonathan Narvaez, they're both teammates, of course, either of whom wouldn't necessarily surprise us if they were winners on top of Wollonga Hill.
Falando de Rui Oliveira, apareceu logo ali o Rui. Ele foi ao carro. Já foi ao carro. Acho que este está aqui a dar os bidões.
Last year, Adam, because he was, I don't remember if he was banging the bars, but he certainly looked really annoyed at his kind of timing and how he got things, where he was beaten by Oscar Onley on Wollonga Hill. Were he in absolutely top form, I think we could be talking right now about him getting revenge today, and it might yet happen. It's just, as I think we both said, he's not looked as sharp. I think even he said he's not as in peak form that he was in last year, but I'm sure he's still good enough if he's in the right position to make something of today.
He'll give it a go. I think Onley's on very good form. I think he'll be looking to repeat what he did last year. He's got the team riding in on the front now, trying to make sure they bring this back, and you're not going to do that if you've got concerns or worries. Yes, you have to back your man, but you wouldn't be doing that if you were not feeling like you could win, basically. Like you do anything, just win.
If you're recently tuning in, looking for the last 40k, welcome to the last 40k, because we're into it. This is the breakaway. Pascal Encorn, the Dutchman, for Soudal Quickstep on the front. Behind him, in the purple colours of Jaco Alula, Michael Hepburn, the Australian. Behind him, Oliver Bledden, the young Australian riding for the Australian national team. And then one of the oldest riders in the race, therefore most experienced too, Ben Swift of Ineos Grenadiers, the British rider at the back. There were 6 of them.
Bem,
and because there were 6
a vantagem está-se a esfumaçar, né?
Absolutely fantastic. They had young Pablo Torres with them. That caused all sorts of problems.
Estão a fazer uma perseguição agora forte, agora sim. Não sei se é a Picnic ainda que está ali na frente. Picnic deve ser, pelo menos aqueles parece, não sei, mas está homens da Movistar ali misturados.
Spaniard who took off on the climb was then caught by these 4. Those aforementioned 2 are no longer with the breakaway, and we're left with 4 fast-ruling, strong riders out front who have 1 minute and 40 seconds. It's been the chase really being led by Team Picnic Post NL, the team that was DSM Firmenich Post NL last year. This year, Picnic Post NL in those. What was the colour? Indigo and orange. The boys here.
Então o Emirates já ali também na frente a trabalhar. Emirates mete um homem também agora ali. Está a meter um homem para o trabalho já ali na frente do pelotão. Então é Picnic e Emirates a trabalhar.
On Willunga Hill, but maybe not sure he necessarily needs to be yet, because they seem to be doing a good job. And this long straight road, those poor 4 guys out front, Adam, of all the roads to be on, this is not a very helpful one, is it?
No, it's not the best, but it's been similar roads all day long. But yeah, when you've got a peloton breathing down your neck like this, you've got UAE helping on the front now as well, with Picnic on it now. So yeah, there'll be there's just no respite, there's no corners, well, there is corners, but there's not many corners where you can have a breather. And see this way, you don't go paddleboarding in a peninsula, so you get eaten by a great white shark.
My paddleboard's impenetrable, Adam. I reckon great white can come up, probably break the great white's teeth off my paddleboard, no problem. Wouldn't even get near me. Having said that, to any great whites listening,
Maltinho, obrigado aí, quem está aí. Que desse mantido aí a assistir, obrigado. Não se esqueçam, se quiserem participar aí no giveaway, está aí no topo do chat. Quando atingirmos os 10 participantes, fazemos o sorteio.
And my research, Adam, as you know, it goes deep and it often goes way off track. But I thought this was an interesting one, because I did wonder about the McLaren link and whether there was one. Well, apparently there is.
Yeah, Emirates ali a colaborar com o homem. Yeah.
Born into this part of the world in South Australia, whose name became Bruce McLaren.
Emirates a colaborar.
He became a racing driver and then formed the McLaren race car company. But my research, I'm not telling this is not, don't take this as fact, by the way, folks. In fact, don't take anything I say as fact. But it's something along these lines. I'm paraphrasing a very long document that I read. Apparently, at one point, he eloped with what I think was possibly his second wife. As they eloped, he decided that he and she should change their names while they were on the boat, escaping, I think, here and going somewhere else. Fantastic work by this band here. And he decided very quickly to change his surname to McLaren, based on the region that he was born into, in the McLaren Vale. And once they got to, I think it may have been England, he forged a career as a racing driver and then formed the McLaren Car Company. And apparently it was only ever called the McLaren Car Company because it was named after him, and he had changed his name, and the first name he could think of was the place he came from. But there we go. It has a link, the McLaren Car Company, to McLaren Vale back here through that very gentleman. I would take that as being about 65 to 70% accurate, because I am quoting a very long document. read about it a while ago.
Surprised they haven't called a car the Vale yet.
Yeah. Yes.
Estamos mesmo quase lá, 10, vai 12, 13 km no máximo. Por aí. Vamos a chegar. Estamos agora aqui numas pequenas colinas, não? Aqui antes do Ilunga Hill. O pelotão, se calhar, o pelotão vai chegar ao Ilunga Hill com menos de um minuto de desvantagem para a fuga, quase certeza, menos de um minuto. Vou tentar recortar agora estes 30 segundos, nestes quilómetros que faltam até o início do Ilunga Hill. Depois acredito que fechem a fuga, apanhem a fuga antes da última subida, não é? Acho que é isso. Piquenique, o Steniel trabalha na frente, a Emirates também está a dar uma ajuda. Vamos ver. Mas já há muitos quilómetros que é só o piquenique que trabalha ali. Não vai ser fácil manter-se sempre ali a malta toda a trabalhar. Vai ter que ter mais ajuda de outras equipas.
Just into, there we go, I was about to say a left-hander, and that's exactly where they are, right in the middle of McLaren Vale. They have a left-hander here, and then they have a right-hander to come as well, to take them back to where the start was. I'm presuming, in actual fact, some of the paraphernalia around the start where they set off at 11:15 this morning will still be there, and actually there might even be a few of the crowd there, if they haven't made their way up to Willunga Hill, which is where I definitely would have gone. Good to see so many bikes out the side of the road as well. A lot of cyclists having made their way out on course today to enjoy it. And now we do see Julius Johansson coming through and doing his turn on the front as well. Bit more of the Lidl Trek colours as well. After their numerical dominance, Adam, on Knox Hill the other day, we'd expect to see something good from them today.
Yeah, I think they've definitely had the numbers, and I'm going to say the firepower. I think all of them were a lot more on the limit. So they were there represented, but they couldn't do much more after that, I think, and that's, yeah, sometimes the way it is, you know, with as many riders in that, you'd have expected them to come together and do a lot more than what they did in that instance, but when you're on your limit, you're on your limit, no matter how many riders are there, but they should be able to play with those numbers today, and that's what might make the difference for them, but you've got to have the legs to be able to do it.
Here's the right-hander, just as I promised, just checking my my mapping is accurate. Nice sweeping wide one. There'll be another feed zone between here and
chão.
Willunga before we get there. Because, hello. One of the Decathlon riders didn't get around their bend. There's me saying the bend is nice and smooth and generous.
Decathlon.
Quite sure what's happened there. This is Jordan Labros, the Frenchman.
Decathlon chão.
You know, Adam, I've often wondered this. You see him there trying to knock his lever back in. I've often wondered, and I've never really got around to asking a race mechanic this, do you tighten them up so they're completely tight, yeah, or do you leave them a bit looser so that you can bang them back in if they get knocked? You know what I mean? It must be a fine balance, but there'll be a torque rating or something for it. There he is on the inside. He's just, I think, just overlapped with one of the EF riders. Bem, estamos a chegar à hora da primeira subida, primeira passagem pelo Willunga Hill. Acho que a fuga vai chegar lá com 1 minuto, mais ou menos, é o que estávamos a prever, 1 minuto. Então, a fuga vai entrar na subida com 1 minuto de vantagem. Eu acho que vai ser curto, acho que não vai dar, vão ser apanhados na última passagem. Ainda esta primeira passagem ainda passam lá na frente, acredito que sim, mas depois acho que o pelotão vai fechar o resto. Não o pelotão, o que sobrar do pelotão, porque terminada esta subida vai ficar um grupo muito pequeno do pelotão. E esperemos que a Lalo esteja lá misturado, não é? Nesse grupo principal. Eu penso que sim. Se tiverem condições, penso que vamos ter. Very experienced race mechanic. Let us know, you know, has it ever come into your thinking? It's got to be. No, it sounds like a ridiculous question, but if I was a race mechanic, I would have a good think about that based on the fact that we so often see riders.
You can't have your lever slightly loose.
No, I know, but do you know what I'm saying? There might be a little in between. So if you could work out that it's tight enough so that it won't move under the weight and movement of a rider, but loose enough that you can bang it. But I don't know.
No, you tighten it up.
I thought you were going to go with me on this. You've just literally trodden on it.
I do not want my lever that is responsible for stopping me and pulling on to be slightly loose.
No, you don't tell the riders. That's the whole point. It's a quiet conversation between the mechanics. You don't tell the riders. It's a little agreement, you know, an understanding between the manufacturer and the mechanic. And the riders don't need to know that. Yeah, they think it's locked on, you know.
No chance.
Anyway, we're having a look at the Israel
Ui,
Premier
estou a ver Bahrein aqui pelo meio.
Well, anyway, they've got multiple options in there if you think about
Pelo menos
it.
estou a ver dois Bahreins.
Stevie Williams, George Bennett. You know, maybe even Corbin Strong can hang on and have a little kick as well.
Tudo a querer colocar-se. Aí, Zé. O pelotão está aberto.
Look at the lineup like that, and then you think about Wollongong, and actually, it's got to be one of the best placed teams.
Yeah, I think, you know, they've not had the best week in terms of getting on the podium and getting big results like they did last year, but, you know, you can't have it always the best. I think the main thing, if you look at it, it's been a successful week in terms of how they've ridden as a team, but black and white, if you look at race results, yeah, it's not been the best, but it's not down to anything else.
Começar a subida, não tarda nada.
Themselves, I think it's just, yeah, different goals maybe later in the year where not everyone's on peak form. This will be interesting now, this first time at Wollongong, I think, you know, you can see the riders getting in position with the teams, but it'll be a very telltale sign of how a lot of teams want to tackle this. Obviously the most important the last time up, but seeing who wants to make it hard or not. I can imagine the likes of Luke Platt wanting it quite hard up here. Ineos Grenadiers with Magnus Sheffield, you've got that recovery in between, but you'd think a lot of riders want that are more of the climbing types, the longer climbers, would want to make it hard up here in preparation for next lap and try and tire a few riders out or get rid of a few riders. Nevaez, especially, you'd like to get rid of Nevaez.
I can promise viewers for quite some time now there won't be any more bird facts, paddleboard talk or anything like that, because the Santos Tour Down Under is definitely about to get serious. We are within 3K of the base of Wollongong Hill for the first passage. In between, we go down a very fast descent down into the valley down beneath the way towards Wollongong Township, not far from where they are right now, of course, and then straight back up. The second time up is the top and the finish at this stage. There's Luke Plapp alongside Maro Schmidt, his teammate. Is he ready? Adam has sounded more confident than me today. I'm standing by what I said. I just don't think Plapp is in the form for it this year for whatever reason, or either that, or he is just keeping his powder so dry that so far his attacks and efforts have been a little bit more muted than the stinging, sharp efforts that we know he can make. We will see.
I think everyone's just caught up with him, and I think he's on amazing form. I think he's going well. I think everyone's, the climbs that have been here for Plappy, you know, he's not massively explosive. He's a grinder. He likes it hard for long times, and he likes to grind away at it. And I think that will show a little bit more on these climbs. You know, that's why he's got Harper setting hard tempos for him to try and distance riders, so then Plappy can go over the top of it and accelerate off of that. But he's definitely, he's still on good form, and he's, you know, he's right up there in nationals. It's home race for him in a team that's sponsored by a man that lives in Australia, so it's hugely important for him. I'd say he's definitely got the form, but I just feel that everyone around him has also got a similar form.
Deviam fazer zoom mais próximo do pelotão aqui de cima.
A little bit of an extra punch to them, which on the days that we've had so far in the race,
ter uma maior noção.
That more punchy climb, you know, this is
quem vai lá, né?
The longest climb we've had to a finish. The longest climb was the one up to Northern Summit, which I think was what, 8k long, and that was at the start of the race where they cruised up it. So this is the longest finishing climb they've had. It's going to be around what,
bem, vão chegar com menos, a fuga vai chegar com menos de 1 minuto à subida. A fuga já está praticamente na subida.
So with that, I think Plappy, this is his one that suits him the best, and this is probably where we'll see him at his best. And that might not be in terms of results, but It might be in terms of performance and the numbers that he does.
Yes, absolutely. And now we see more of the colours, as Adam has said, drawing themselves together, the teams coming together to support their riders. We've got Groupama FDG, the French team, just in from EF Education Easy Post. They've got to be backing.
O Bahrein vem aqui pelo meio. Não, isto é esta.
If he is at the back of that string, we won't be able to see him because he's one of the most compact riders in this field. The way he's been riding, the snappy nature he's been riding with.
Caramba, esses gajos fazem uns zooms mesmo marados.
Is the last of the three Sudan Quick Step riders. Of course, they've got Pascal Encorn up the road. They would normally see Pascal Encorn leading Junior Lasser into a climb like this, but he's up the road and waiting. I wonder if these guys do stay away, maybe even until the first or the second ascent. They've got 50 seconds right now, whether maybe Encorn is out there, Lasser jumps across to him and he's able to do something. I'm coming up with a fictitious happening, which is, well, there's all sorts of complex things that could be going on. There's one of them, I guess.
So for the leader, the time's up, Old Willanga. Willanga tore down under KOM. He's got that in a time of 6 minutes 54. There's Michael Hepburn being dropped.
Ja, o Hepburn.
Down to 3.
Hepburn, ja.
By the way, Adam, I'm kicking myself.
Hepburn já desistiu, acho eu. Só tá Ekan Swift. Acho eu. Hepburn desistiu da fuga.
So he's not only just a track rider, he's an Olympic champion. Australia, of course, beating Great Britain and Italy in that final in Paris. I was a little bit distracted in Paris anyway because I was covering surfing, swimming and breakdancing. I wasn't following the track cycling quite as closely as you can probably tell. Should have remembered that. Thank you, Poke Snail on Blue Sky for getting in touch to remind me of that.
Bora vir para a frente, atenção. A bora de Fisher Black a fazer a colocação, atenção. A bora de Fisher Black a colocar-se agora. Agora vai começar a ver as colocações, né? Estamos praticamente no início da subida. Já sobe, pequena ascensão, mas gradiente um bocado baixo ainda, mas já sobe. Faltam 26 km para a meta. Lá na frente a equipa da seleção australiana a pôr um ritmo forte.
Maybe we won't go near that anymore. We might come back to it later. I've got a strange feeling it might be doing the socials a little bit during the course of the day as people see it. But anyway, there we go. We'll leave it there. This has been a good day out for Oliver Bledin, not least bearing in mind that Michael Hepburn, who'd been encouraging him, has now dropped off. He's kicking over a nice sensible gear. None of that diagonal chain that we saw yesterday. No unnecessary big ring action. He's got a lovely high cadence, the Olympic team pursuit champion.
Oi, primeiros ataques lá atrás no pelotão. Mais um homem da seleção australiana e o homem da Jacob. Durbridge da Jacob. Mas o pelotão encosta. Ui, já estou a ver ali Bahreins. Estamos a ver ali dois Bahreins. Será? Agora já começou a subida para a fuga. Fuga com 35 segundos de vantagem. 2.7 km de subida. As rampas são mais ou menos estas. A pendente será sempre esta, mais ou menos. Vamos ver.
Encorn, though, does not want to let him get away quite so easily, and he is just gradually closing back up. And these are these classic Wollonga Hill scenes of kind of big drops either side of them, the crash barrier alongside them too, and a gradually climbing road. Wellsford, bye-bye. I think that's him saying goodbye to us. He's been on the deck today anyway. He will wait.
Já muita gente a ficar para trás, normal.
Swift just starting to lose the wheel a little bit here. Here is the race leader
Está ali um Bahrein, não consigo ver quem é. Mas já à frente ali do Movistar. Ali atrás, entre aqueles dois vermelhos, está um Bahrein ali. Oh, em vez de mostrarem o coisa, estão a mostrar um gráfico agora, Zé. Vá, mete lá na corrida, pá.
Very rarely big gaps. Yesterday's winner, Leon Coquard there, I think, with a bike problem, Adam, by the looks of it. He was 10th on this stage last year, you know.
Yeah, this time, I mean, if you've got good legs and you're a sprinter and it's a headwind up it, you can really shelter in it, but it's when it's not windy, you can really you can hang on for a long time. A lot of the riders, I think, there's always been Greipel's been right up there on this before. It needs to be a headwind for the sprinters though, and today slight crosswind, and you can see they've got that protection on their left hand side, and that's where the wind's coming from.
Well, it looks very much like the catch is going to happen on this first ascent of Willungia Hill, but Oliver Bledden, even if that does happen, is going to get the accolade of being the last man to be caught on the
14 segundinhos de vantagem.
stage as well. He's riding well. Let's have a look down that group.
Isto agora vai fazer uma pequena seleção, não é? Depois na segunda passagem é que vai ser a estocada final. Boras ali, embora. Ao Pessina, Education, um Bahrein, parece-me ver um Bahrein mais atrás. Se eles abrirem a imagem, dois Jacos. Não, é um Bahrein, né? Não, é um Bora, aquilo é um Bora. Não vejo Bahrein nenhum.
And alongside him, Magnus Sheffield. Sheffield and Kwiatkowski together, just behind Tess Fassion there.
Floppy just making his way up, slowly but surely. There's Luke Durbridge come back. Day done.
Yeah, and at the back of this field, along with Sam Welsford and others, there'll be riders dropping off left, right and centre on this first ascent of Willungia Hill, knowing that
bem, já estão apanhados
the last two proper climbs of this year's race. Ben Swift just made his way back up to Oliver Bledden, Adam.
Yeah, just settle into his rhythm. He's definitely done that now.
Well, let's not forget,
Lopez is finally catching the breakaway.
Yes. In the run into this climb, it's been Picnic Post NL setting the pace all the time. They're not quite so evident at the front, but we'll start looking to see where Oscar Onley is at the end of this. It's almost like at the very last, the other boys in
bem, a fuga praticamente apanhada, não é? Nada a fazer.
Jaco's really dropping the hammer here, Jazz.
Yeah.
You see how many people are getting dropped.
Está ali um Bahrein, estou a ver um Bahrein. Será o Elólio? Espero bem que sim. Espero bem que sim. Harper. Número 13. Tudo para dar certo. Vamos embora. É que no nosso Elólio, pô.
He needs to make it hard, and I think he's doing this now because he could see everyone suffering. He could see a little gap opening up, so he's doing the right thing, but leaving Plapp on his own. He's got Schmidt with him, maybe. Yes, so Schmidt's there now, but they can back off.
Está ali um Bahrein.
He's the man in form, and Harper's been close to that.
Bem, o Harper abriu aqui espacinho.
The number 2 leader that's there to look after Plapp is his right-hand man, and in this instance where he's not too far behind on GC, they've got that two-pronged attack, so they both come into that leadership role as such.
Yeah, this is. I think that's quite clever.
Oi, Ineo já atacar.
Deliberately out of the saddle there, looking like he's working hard, but he's not actually going that hard at all.
So Creato attacking rather than riding on the front.
Yeah,
it's a clever thing to do because it just not neutralises, but instead of dragging the whole peloton across and showing that they want to ride and taking that responsibility, tries to go on the attack instead, so the team doesn't necessarily have to ride behind him and take on that responsibility. Schmidt attacking. Nervous.
Oi, atenção, Schmidt ao ataque.
This will be clever.
Atenção.
Schmidt can get across to him there. Schmidt can help Harper.
É muito longe da meta, 23 km sozinho é muito longe.
Jacob with the cleverness here. This is great.
Yeah, Luke Plapp left on the front. He has a little look around. He's got Oscar on the alongside him. There's Schmidt. Yeah, you're right, Adam. This is a fascinating, presumably, could well be pre-planned move, or at least it's good tactics that are being made up on the go. There's Harper out front. He's looking round. He should be able to see the red jersey of the Swiss champion, his own teammate. Mara Schmidt.
Schmidt will do well to get across to him here.
Could do with just panning round to have a look where Schmidt is. I wonder if Harper has seen that he's coming up.
I was going to say about 20 seconds. That's a long way back on the climb. It's only 6.5 minutes, well, 7 minutes long.
Well, oh yeah, the gap probably about.
Atenção, vão se juntar os dois Jacobs lá na frente.
25
yeah, back to the group. There they are. They are going to come together just over the top. Fantastic crowd up there on Wollongong Hill. Many of them will have been there for the first passage when we came down it the other way early on this stage.
Bem, dois homens. Atenção, atenção a esta movimentação dos dois homens da Jacob. Atenção. Atenção.
This is exactly what Harper needs, and Plapp at the same time. Put the pressure on the guys behind.
This is Mountain's points here. Well, this is interesting actually, because Mara Schmidt's going to take the 10 points. That now gives him 27, right? So he's not quite closing in on Fergus Browning, but he does pick up some more. He's going to be a very solid second in that competition.
Aí é grupo enorme, pô. Deixa eu ver quanto é que vem aqui. Se dá para descoordenar o nosso Eulálio aqui.
On and off attacking, and none of them want to take that responsibility, which is obviously benefiting Schmidt and Harper here.
Well, judging by that, Adam, first time over, Javier Romo looking good, covering moves, following Luke Plapp as well. But he does look a little bit isolated. I don't see too many other Movistar riders around him.
No, not too many around him, but there's not going to be much attacking on these flatter sections, I think, with the climb coming up. You know, I think there'll be a little bit across the top here where everyone's legs are hurting. When they get onto this downhill section, it's pretty much flat and running all the way to the finish. But with Schmidt, you know, he can do a lot of the work here for Harper. Harper not coming through, though. There's Narvaez. Bettiol in front of him.
Let's not forget, Mara Schmidt was one of those riders who came into this race being talked up as a potential favourite. Lost time on the Mengers Hill stage, lost time on the Knots Hill stage into Uradla, and then came back yesterday and made up a fair bit.
As árvores não deixam ver nada, Zé. Porra.
Bonus second as well. But today, though, very much working for, we think, Luke Plapp at the moment. And that is Henuk Mulubran, the African Continental Champion for XDS Astana, rolls up to the front alongside the race leader. These two are going to pile it on up there. We saw how strong Mara Schmidt was yesterday as the strongest man in that breakaway. And I don't know, Adam, so, right, 14 seconds, they say, the gap.
No, it's not 14, it's much bigger than that at the minute.
That's what I think.
That'll be off. We had the same thing on the ridge last time where the time gaps just started disappearing and going, but I have a strong feeling it'll be bigger than that. That's up to around 30 seconds, I reckon, though.
Bem, sua perseguição cá atrás, está visto?
Right. We're looking down at Jacopo Mosca on the front, who is closing down a little gap here to
Torres again.
Torres, yeah. Now, for those of you who weren't with us at the beginning of the broadcast, Pablo Torres is high on general classification. He was in the breakaway, and they weren't enjoying it. They weren't enjoying him being there. But there he is.
Quiato. So Quiato's in the middle of that, so he's managed to sneak off clear and in between. So that might be the... I'm not going to say that would be that, but it's too small still. I think Schmidt and Harper are a good long way up the road here. There you go.
There we go, yeah. Remarkably, this is Michał Kwiatkowski's debut in the Santos Tour Down Under at the age of 34. Never ridden it before. This is his first time. He's certainly been very active this week as well. The Polish former world champion. Can he get up to these two, though? Teammates. So they won't be racing each other. They're against each other. They're going to be working together. But This is interesting though, Adam, so let's just go through the ramifications of this. They build up a lead, let's even say they get to the base of Wollonga Hill the second time. How does this help Plapp? I know it means he can then sit on other riders behind, doesn't have to do anything and stuff, but if the aim is still for him to win, what are the different options?
The aim is for the team to win with Plapp if possible. The second leader in this team is Chris Harper. Chris Harper is that joker card, not the joker card, but the second leader where they can take the focus off of Plapp. So as they send Harper up the road, brilliant. He's up there on GT, close enough. Still within the same time as Plapp is, but everyone knows that Plapp's that leader, so they'll look at him. With that, when everyone's looking at him, Harper's been able to take off and still have the same chance as what Plapp's had. So he's ultimately still a leader, but he's not the #1 leader.
I'm happy to be proven wrong, Adam, but I'm still going to stick to what I've said about what I've seen of Plapp the last few days. I actually don't know. I mean, if maybe Plapp destroys everyone the second time up it, and I'm entirely proven wrong, but I still don't think, I can't see Luke Plapp riding away from everyone there in the current form he's in the way that Chris Harper did. I just think Harper's going quite a lot better than him, but I might be wrong. I might well be wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong.
I think any time that Harper's gone on the attack, Plapp's been able to follow him, and the times in the other stages that Harper's set the tempo for Plapp, Plapp's been able to accelerate over the top of him. I think they're very honest bike riders, and if that was the case, they're not just picking a leader because of who they are, they'll pick it in form and where they're at within that form. Harper's on very, very good form, don't get me wrong about that, but I think Plapp is, he's still the #1 leader, with Harper being the second leader. There's can be 2-3 leaders in a team in a race like this to play those cards that they can, and they are doing that brilliantly now.
Well, there's only 18k to go in this decisive, as it always is, Wollonga Hill stage in the 25th anniversary edition of the Santos Tour Down Under.
Bem, ganharam aqui uma vantagemzinha de 25 segundos. Vamos ver o que é que isto vai dar, né?
Massive crowd up there this Saturday afternoon in South Australia.
25 segundinhos.
Mulberger is doing long turns here on the front for his team leader Javier Romo, who took the race lead.
Movistar a pôr um ritmo agora.
Fast descent off the top of Knots Hill.
Acho que a Emirates também está ali.
Will he still be in the Oka leader's jersey come the finish? Not only is
Aqui
there
na descida agora.
there's the 10-second bonus at the very top as well. 10, 6 and 4 seconds available up there. His lead over Jonathan Narvaez, 4 seconds. Where is Narvaez? Let's look down that line, shall we? And see if we can see where the Ecuadorian champion is. He'll be there, I'm sure, but I haven't seen too much of him just yet.
Hiding in plain sight.
He must be.
He's there. He's got Mark Soler sat second wheel within that peloton at the minute, so Mark Soler will no doubt start riding on the front, so Harper getting too far away.
Schmidt is absolutely ripping every time he comes through. Just turns it up again, another little notch. 30 seconds we're seeing the gap back to this lot. Still a pretty big bunch. I'm absolutely certain they've been right. Well, there have been riders dropped from it. We've seen them, but remind viewers, there have only been 2 winners up there since the last time that Richie Port won, and they are Oscar Onley and Matt Holmes. Interestingly, 2 British riders, 1 English and 1 Scottish. There's actually only 1 rider that's ever doubled up there, and that's the king of Wollonga Hill, of course, Richie Port himself. No one else. He could have, do you reckon he could have done it today?
Se aguentar,
Fit as a fiddle, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, from what I see, Adam, most of his fitness at the moment is coming through swimming. Of course, he is, I think, another former triathlete at one point, and swimming quite a lot as well. Alberto Betio swinging out. He's having a go at someone, I think, by the looks of it, Adam. I don't know what that's about. It's a long way up at the front of the group.
Someone just told him they have pineapple on pizza.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with pineapple on pizza. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe not if you're wearing that skin suit, but what about an egg on a pizza?
I mean, yeah, eggs are nice, but I prefer them poached, scrambled on toast, but not necessarily on a pizza. But
then again, you'd probably put crustaceans on a pizza as well, wouldn't you? Like prawns. I bet you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Prawns on a pizza.
Lovely.
Oh, yeah. We can see the sea in front of them, heading down towards, in the direction of Aldinga Beach again, but they're not going all the way down that there. We're going to take that left-hander just before they get to Fox Creek, go back into Willunga Township, and then, of course, start the base of the climb again. They'll be down there before you know it, because they're absolutely flying right now.
Yeah, very fast descent this one. It's a good 100k an hour descent.
Três equipas a trabalhar ali. Piquenique, Emirates e Ineos também. A gente consegue descortinar aqui a Bahrein, deu LOL. Está homem ali.
How is Javier Romo feeling mentally, physically, mental load-wise, nerves? 26-year-old Spaniard went through his fledgling triathlon career yesterday. Tell people what sort of level he got to on the European Cup circuit. Pretty good, but nowhere near as where he is right now, taking his first professional victory in the World Tour. I was wrong, by the way.
Bem, 30 segundos, conseguiram aqui na descida meter mais uns segundinhos. Se calhar dá fuga. Deixa eu ver quanto tempo é que tem de... Atenção, Carpar está a 15 segundos e Schmid a 25 segundos. Kwiatkowski vai na perseguição a 35 segundos. Atenção, temos... Sei que eles dois chegam. Ainda são uns quaisquer.
The Olympic team pursuit champion. I'm going to keep saying that because I should have been giving him credit for it in the first place. Right on the back.
Desce a grande velocidade, faltam 12 km. Desce aqui a grande velocidade.
Nearly into that final 10k as well. Just check his number. It looks like Mühlberger again, just swinging off on the front. And at the moment, Adam, Movistar still there, deep into this race, doing a good job of supporting the guy. And we have to say, even though it was in slightly broken English, understandably, for Javier Romo, the way he described, it was almost like he was describing the surprise, his own surprise at a team like Movistar defending a leader's jersey in a stage race. I can't remember quite how he said it, but when he said it, I thought, wow, you actually seem surprised that your team is in this position.
Well, it might be. You know, it's it could be a surprise. You don't know how well you're going. You don't know what your other opponents are going.
Vamos ver como é que vai ser a segunda passagem aqui pelo Willunga, né?
Which makes it sweeter, but they're all professionals, so they'll know what to do with it. 10k's to go for these guys. Another 4k before it really starts to drag up, and then the last 3.8 up that hill. What's Harper going to have left in his legs? Was 25 seconds. It isn't a lot on Willunga after you've been out front like these guys are.
There they are. When we see it like that from the helicopter shot above the vines here, they look lonely. And look at the pointy weapon that's being pointed at them. 120 odd professional bike riders headed for the same hill and headed for the same two riders out front, both from the same team. They worked what looked like a tactical masterpiece. In, we presume, the service of this guy, Lucas Platt, who's now back at the back of the peloton again, Adam.
Yeah, he's the new Steve Cummins, isn't he? He's either at the back or on the front,
yep,
or off the front.
I do wonder with the likes of guys like Luke Platt, like Steve Cummins, what do you do if suddenly that that attitude catches on, you've got 7 or 8 guys who all want to be at the back, and then there starts to be a race for the back. And before you know it, they're all underlapping each other and dropping back, trying to be the last one at the back. Can't have too many people doing it, or if you can, you'll end up having a group off the back, and then off the back of them, and then off the back of them. Yeah, we're waiting. This is the calm before the storm. We've already had a bit of a storm, of course, the first time up. There's Stevie Williams, winner of this race 1 year ago, with the number 1 on his back. And then Albert Philipson. Quite a few people I've been reading in the cycling press bigging him up for this stage. The double junior world mountain bike champion, former junior road world champion, still only 18 years of age, in the white jersey of best young rider for Lidl Trek, with teammates around him. He'll have plenty of support up here, seeing how well they're climbing the other day.
There's a big difference there from what you can tell within a young guy and an experienced guy. You see how he was fighting for that wheel, like moving his body to get ready to knock into someone. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, of course, there's not, because he wants to hold his teammates' wheel, but look how calm it is around him. And then if you look at an experienced guy, they've just put a hand on someone's back just to let them know they're there and just climb, just here. Or just say, just here, mate, or just let them squeeze you a little bit. You're not going to lose that wheel in this case.
Vamos ter esta zona agora mais calma, né? E aproximar da subida. Agora é mais plano.
It's not that there's not respect, there's just that that's how they've been racing the past few years, and they want to do well, they want to hold that wheel because that's what they need to do. As they get older,
será que a fuga chega?
The gaps a little bit, the way they move, the way the peloton moves, but it's quite a good example of.
Kwiatkowski já foi apanhado.
I'm not going to say respect's the wrong word.
Atenção à curva, atenção à curva, Zé.
That is the left-hand turn that takes them onto the very long straight road that leads straight into the base of Wollonga Hill. You can see it up in front of them in actual fact. Extremely long straight road. The worst road in the world for a 2-up breakaway who are being chased on a 20-second gap by 120 cyclists. However, the gap is there. There's the
viragem à esquerda. Tal viragem.
Who is going to be the winner on top of Wollonga Hill, and will it decide the final winner of this year's Santos Tour Down Under? Don't forget we have the city centre criterium tomorrow in Adelaide, which could be something of an exhibition. It could, however, be something of a decider if it is still extremely close. At the moment, Jonathan Narvaez is just 4 seconds down on Javier Romo.
Quick one there, Ineos Grenadiers really shoving it in the gutter there, and they're looking like get onto this straight, lead it into Wollonga fast as possible, and just really open things up. And with it being an ever so slight crosswind from the riders' right hand shoulders to the left, looks like a few people were looking for the teammates there. The wind's not too strong, but it's enough when you're flat out to stop riders moving up, to cause a few problems. You look where Platt was a minute ago, he'll still be there, so that journey to the front that he's going to have to make is going to take him a long time, and that is something that he is not going to want. As they approach into Wollonga, there's a little bit more shelter, and that ramp that I described, that drag, it's a deceptive one, so he should have to do it there, but trust me, it is a hard road, and a road
estão-se a bater bem, pá. Os gajos estão-se a bater e eles não sobem mal. O problema está aí. O problema é que eles estão-se a bater bem e não sobem mal. O Ineos já dá tudo.
At the moment it's Sam Watson on the front, just behind him. Kwiatkowski's still there. Excuse me, Adam, I just had a drink of water and breathe.
This is a big move now by Ineos Grenadiers, and a very well planned one, and something a lot of riders weren't expecting, but it's been executed beautifully. You look where Plapp is now, he is in trouble at the minute, can I get this back? As I said, it ramps up, it'll no doubt come back together, but Ineos Grenadiers here, absolutely brilliant.
Yes, they've really done one here, and on the very back of it is Javier Romo, a little gap behind him though. It is Lawrence Pithy just in front of him. He's still got teammates
Já
there,
partiu ali.
Javier Romo, but he is the last rider there. Tess Fassion, look at him to get him to move up. His own teammates are trying to encourage him to get in there.
Watch Van Poppel now as well.
Partiu ali, mas não está em Bahrein.
Contributing to this, they'll start helping with it. They'll start
Já partiu ali e não está em Bahrein.
Romeo's there, but Narvaez isn't there. Michael Woods is there, but look at the gaps behind.
E fez corte grande.
Rapidly now in that 2 kilometers.
Oh.
That injection of speed. Ineos Grenadiers getting a little bit of extra help from Red Bull.
Não vi nenhum baralho neste grupinho que está a chegar aqui à frente. Oh, está ali, está um baralho. Ou não? Epá, os capacetes não dá para ver, Zé. Mas que é mais à frente. Acho que está ali. Não, não está não.
Which is amazing. Even Finn Fisher Black. I can't see Finn Fisher Black in that group, Adam, at all.
That's where they need to be though. UAE need to be with Navayas. They need to be all around him, driving the pace back into this group here, because they can't afford to just wait there. They need to get him back into the bike race. Is that Only down there as well?
Mike Woods is the last to come across as well, and there's Simon Clark there too. Javier Romo, I mean, anything could happen for me at the moment. Javier Romo.
Ei, deixaram-se ficar no corte.
Difficult to tell from his body language how he's feeling, but look at the power being laid on as well by Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Really, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe in collaboration here with
já partiram. Já não chegam aqui à frente, aqueles lá atrás já não chegam. Mal colocados, é. Pronto, já foi. Grande trabalho aqui da Ineos, da Bora. Apanhou, partiu o pelotão, partiu a cabeça do pelotão. Ficou muita gente a pé. Ele lá ali ficou cortado, certeza. Não o vejo ali. Só se ainda vão recuperar, mas não me parece.
Yeah, this part of the road is in that
second group too with Narvaez, right, Adam?
Yeah, he's, well, just in the peloton behind. Yeah, they've got the chasing to do, but as I said about this road earlier, you can see everyone's faces. This part of the course here is a stinger. If you've got the legs to make a difference here, this is where you can do it before the climb, but it is very, very difficult indeed, and you can even see six wheels down there. There's a gap being opened up to the Arkea rider.
Mas foi bem jogado, pô. A Ineos e Bora conseguiram partir ali o pelotão. Ficou só este grupinho aqui da frente. Desatenção ali. Já não entra, aquela moto ali já não entra. Ou entra, vamos ver. Eu acho que já não entra. Ora bem, temos Movistar, Bora. Ineos, track ali para trás, Vismas.
There's a little word when Geraint Thomas third in line there, number 76, when he was rolling through a minute ago, he went past Sheffield and said don't roll through. If you look where Sheffield's sitting now, he's just sat further back, just waiting, not doing any turns, just not pushing any wind, just trying to do as little as possible before getting into this climb and leaving it to his teammates. Geraint Thomas, he's got one rider in front of him that's looking after Sheffield, but for the rest of them, full commitment to extend this gap. Harper within this group still, which is very clever. I did Michael Woods there as well.
Pá, foi pena este corte. Pitti, ok, Clark, Woods, Thomas, Geraint Thomas também ali. What? Black, Pitti, Van Poppel, Izagir, Romo, Conrad. Quem foi apanhado fora daquela corte já foi. Ui, estão a entrar. Ui, é Bahrein. É Bahrein, está a chegar Bahrein. Ui, lindo. Diz-me que é Bahrein, está a chegar. Pareceu-me pela cor, pareceu-me. É Bahrein, chegou Bahrein. Lindo. Bom, pelo menos chegaram. Agora se é Bahrein não sei. Ah, não é não. É Decathlon. Todos os equipamentos são bem esquisitos.
Romo himself has his own teammate setting the pace now into the steepening climb of Willunga Hill. We've got 2.9 kilometres to go, sorry, and there's Luke Plapp, who maybe through not chasing that gap, has just ridden his way in a little bit more calmly here. Adam, watch the jersey, because I think Romo fancies kicking off. I did say, did I not? I wonder if actually he's ready to go again himself and going fully on the attack. This is the race leader, Javier Romo, winner of stage 3, who is attacking everyone. It's Chris Harper going after him. Do not tell me he's going to put the race totally to bed today by riding away from him. At the moment, that is exactly what he's doing. Adam, look at this.
Yeah, he's got Harper who's been on the attack beforehand, so he's obviously going to have that Little bit of fatigue in there. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe behind now, but Harper's
O Romo
diesel
ataca.
engine is the kind of guy that hasn't got that big acceleration.
É Harper que vem atrás,
Once he settles into that rhythm, but this is an impressive ride now. I just hope he's not gone all in, because I can't imagine there's not going to be any response from
o
behind.
Romo
The
está
race
muito
leader
forte,
attacking. Someone needs to
Este Romo
get
está
on it.
muito forte.
Had an easy comfort ride so far. Plapp not done anything yet. Nevaeus will wait and follow because he's got that super fast finish, but this is a demonstration here.
Wow, and he has the steepest bits he's come. Don't forget it goes up to 15% this climb. Not for long, but it does, and it's before we get to the top. What a ride by Javier Romo. We had Tesfacion just finishing his turn. It was almost as if he was doing a lead out. I did not expect this at all, Adam. I know I hinted at it earlier, but this is some demonstration. He resets his head unit. He's watching his power as he goes, the 26-year-old Spaniard. If he rides away like this and wins this stage, he will be an extremely worthy winner of this race. He'd be a worthy winner of the race anyway, the way he took off the other day, but he's doing it again. He wants to demonstrate that he's not just winning through a surprise attack going over the top of Notts Hill, but he wants to win by being the best rider on the best climbs. And right now, that's what he's showing. Let's watch the chase. The chase is coming from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. It's Ben Zwihoff chasing for Finn Fisher-Black. I'm not sure Chris Harper can do anything about it. He's been trying to close down the race leader, but he looks like well, I'll say that. He looks like he might be about to get caught, but let's zoom out and see where Javier Romo is. From here, Adam, what do you reckon? Can he hold them off? 2K.
Depends on what's behind. Here's Plapp's move now, so Plapp is going on the attack. Nevaeus on his wheel. This is the big one for Plapp now. He has to really respond to it, and this is what we've been waiting for. Only on that wheel as well, so this is what he needs to do right now. He just needs to keep riding and hope these riders behind him tire and that gap starts to come down for him. But I think if they start playing games, this is where it's going to become increasingly
difficult. Only.
A lot of the riders, but yeah, it looks like it's coming.
Ui, vão chegar ao Romo. O Romo atacou cedo demais. Diz-me que o Eli vem ali, por favor. Não me parece. Está apanhado o Romo. O Romo vai ser apanhado. Tem que fazer um esforço agora, Zé. Não vão apanhar.
Let's call it 1,500 meters to go. He still looks strong in the saddle, Adam.
He's looking very strong indeed, and these guys are all just looking at Plapp, only waiting at Plapp. They close
não vão chegar.
That's the sign of confidence to say, yes, we can do this again. I know I can bring it back if I need to. But the longer they wait, the closer he's getting to that finish. So Plapp, I think, just needs to try and bring him back within reach. But sadly for Plapp, that everyone's relying on him to make that move, and no one else is willing to commit just yet.
Bastien Tronchon is there as well, the Frenchman for the Gathon Agile de la Mondiale. He's just on the back of the Plapp-led string there, alongside Oscar Onley. He's been riding high in GC after being in the break early in the week, but we've got to applaud this, because right now, hello, Plapp goes again. He's got Onley going with him. He's got Narvaez. Narvaez is following Onley, the man who beat him last year to the top of this climb. Luke Plapp wasn't even in the race by this point last year after crashing out, so he wants to make the most of every pedal stroke he has here in the Santos.
Vão chegar ao Romo? Não chega. Oi, vão chegar, vão. Não chega.
There's a very, very sparse flamme rouge up here, indicating 1K to go to the top of the climb. Romo still looking strong, the race leader. He's pulled his race.
Tem que encostar agora, Zé. É agora. Isto vai para Onley, queres ver? Grande trabalho da aposta é nele. Vai para Onley. Fizeram um grande trabalho, Zé. Tem que encostar agora, Zé. Aí, não vão encostar. Tem que encostar, Zé. Ui, vão parar, Zé. Porra. Caraças. Então, vai tu, vou eu. Costa já, Zé.
He's going
The
to
chasers behind them aren't too far behind either. Look out for Fisher Black back there as well. But of course, he's got his own teammate Narvaez up the way. Now Plapp goes again. Narvaez comfortably following. What has Romo got left? What has Oscar Onley got left? He kicked with so much speed on Notts Hill the other day. I would think he'd got a very good turn of speed. Can he double up and repeat his win here for the first time since Richie Port? This is the kind of move we expected to see from Luke Plapp, but he's got to try and drop them. There is 10, 6 and 4 bonus seconds up here. And don't forget, there are 4 seconds only between Narvaez, who rides second in this string, and the man at the back, Javier Romo, who is holding on. Romo has the sense to look round as well.
Era fixe que o Elo viesse logo ali no segundo grupo. Não me parece. A subida é durinha. Acho que isto vai dar no Narvaez. Isto vai dar no Narvaez.
You want seconds, you need seconds as well. You know, the worst place for him to cross his line at the minute is 4th place, but look who's coming in the background.
Aí vem ele.
But here goes Narvaez against Narvaez going.
What has Oscar Onley got left to respond to it? I don't know if he can, because we know that
Narvaez is
probably the fastest.
Não vai.
Right last time, but round that left-hander, it looks like Narvaez this time.
Narvaez.
Right. Jonathan Narvaez is going to take the win on top of Willunga Hill and is only just able to celebrate. Look at that ride by Javier Romo. I tell you what, I think right there we are looking at an extremely worthy winner of the Santos Tour Down Under. If he can keep it together tomorrow on the streets of Adelaide, Adam, is going to be absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Because when we look at the GC after this, the gaps again will be absolutely tiny.
Isn't Narvaez?
Narvaez. What am I talking about? Narvaez has won. He's got the 10-second bonus. Thank you, Adam, for doing the quick maths. He will have taken over. He's got 10 seconds. Where did Romo actually finish on the line there?
Outside the top 5. He didn't get any seconds. So
there we go.
Narvaez with a 6-second lead.
Yes.
Over, I'm not sure who yet, but yeah, Narvaez is in that Orca leader's jersey.
Grande vitória. Narvaez, pá. Boa vitória.
Wow. I tell you what. I mean, watching the way Romo rode there, Adam. I don't know. Now thinking about it like that. We're seeing that Narvaez will be in that leader's jersey tomorrow. I mean, I just wonder whether maybe if he had sat on and not. Let's go through the finale first before we go over what it means.
Já não conseguimos ver.
He starts to launch his spin. Onley just trying to
É isso, maltinha.
Look at Fisher Black behind, straight past the two riders, Romario and Luke Plapp, and these guys
É isso, vitória para Narvaez, né? Ora bem, 10 segundos. Onley e Fisher Black. Onley e Fisher Black. Onley e Fisher Black. Narvaez sobe a primeiro. Com 6 segundos de vantagem sobre o home.
Brilliant finale. Oscar Onley again. Second year in a row where he's been so good on this climb, but Fisher Black. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Narvaez vai estar amarela.
500 meters of the race, Fisher Black must have been the quickest there. He closed up on them with so much speed.
Roma atacou um bocadinho cedo demais.
He's absolutely flying. What were you saying about Plapp before?
All right. Where did he come fourth though? He didn't win, did he? He was very impressive. I think it's just the way he climbs. He's so smooth that he never looks that snappy. No, I'm Free Harper. Hashtag Free Harper. That's what I'm saying.
He was free.
Yes. Was hard day. Today was the average was high. The temperature was high. Was not easy. When you start like everyone telling you, you are the favorite, it's not easy for me.
Vamos ficar por aqui.
But in the end we make it.
Foi boa etapa, amanhã mais. Bem, mas amanhã a gente já não acompanha. Isto a estas horas é lixado. Vá, grande abraço, pá, obrigado por teres ficado aí. Fica bem, até amanhã. Ui, grande abraço. É isso, maltinha. Vamos ficar por aqui. Fiquem bem. Espero que tenham gostado. Pá, a estas horas é complicado, não é? Já está aqui bem cansado. Começa a dar o sono. Yeah, e é isso. Fiquem bem. Até amanhã. Grande abraço.
Yes, I mean, I have to say, Adam, this victory, there will be